G'day beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about health and armor. Now, this is a slightly difficult thing to understand once you sort of know the formulas. It's not too hard to sort of work out how everything actually goes, but it's a little bit more complicated than what you sort of think it is based off this card says I get 60 health, so I just get 60 health. So I'm going to try and make sense of this for you and hopefully allow you to understand it a little bit more, and then we'll go on to penetration in another video. I just thought I'd pop this out today because I have a scrim tonight, which I will hopefully have up tomorrow. But yeah, for today we're going to talk about health and armor. So if you're going to find this video helpful in any way, shape or form, please smash the like button and leave me a comment and let me know if I miss anything or if you have any questions whatsoever. And if you're not already subscribed, please do so. But with that said, let's get started, starting with armor. Okay, so armor is a stat that reduces the damage that a hero or a structure takes. Okay, armor comes in two different forms. It is basic armor and ability armor. Basic armor will reduce the amount of damage that you take from basic attacks. Okay, and ability armor obviously will reduce the amount of damage that you take from abilities. Alright, and both of them will actually reduce tower damage, I should mention that. So all heroes in the game and all structures, so that's towers, inhibitors and cores, have physical basic armor and ability armor, everything that I've just listed. Now the amount that they have varies based on time in the match, cards equipped, hero level, yada yada yada. Okay, so the only thing we won't go over today is actually penetration. We'll talk about penetration and shred in another video because it's going to be complicated enough just talking about armor. So what armor actually does is it affords you a percentage that you mitigate armor by. Okay, so it's not the fact of if I have 100 armor, how much damage, how much actual damage, as in 100 damage, 200 damage do I mitigate. It's actually a percentage that you're mitigating. Okay, so that's the thing that a lot of people don't really understand, and this formula has actually changed a lot since Legacy. It used to take hero level into account, it no longer takes hero level into account. So when you're talking about the value of armor, what you're actually talking about is effective health. So we'll get into effective health last, but for now I'll show you what the actual formula is to work out what damage reduction you're going to be getting. Now the damage reduction is going to be the percentage that you reduce damage by. So if for argument's sake you ended up at 50% damage reduction, that would mean that if someone hits you for 100, what would have been 100, you will actually only get hit by 50. Okay, so on the screen is the formula for armor damage mitigation. Okay, so the DR percentage means damage reduction percentage, and the AAP at the end is armor after penetration. So let's say you were fighting a hero that was just running damage and basic penetration. Okay, that would mean that if they had 50 penetration, the AAP would be your armor minus their penetration in that slot. So for the for this video, what we'll actually do is we'll assume that the enemy has no penetration whatsoever. So this formula will equal damage reduction 1 minus 100 divided by 100 plus your armor. Okay, so if we look at all the different classes, you have your carries, which start with 18 base armor. Okay, at level 1. At level 15, they will have 46 basic armor. Okay, fighters will start with 14 basic armor and end up at 31.5 basic armor at level 15. Casters start at 8 armor and end up at 22 at level 15. Now there are exceptions to this rule as well, but there's no point talking about that. Some heroes are a little bit different. And all heroes start with 20 ability armor and end up at 30.5 ability armor. I'm pretty sure there is no one actually currently having anything different than that. There was for a moment. I think Morigesh was a bit different when she started, but that is neither here nor there. Okay, so if we take this formula and we look at the armor that these heroes actually have, so we'll start with carries at level 1 with 18 armor, okay, using the formula that we just looked at. That means that a carry will be mitigating 15.25% of all incoming damage, okay? This is why you will notice that throughout the game you do different damage values to minions than you do to heroes, because the minions have no armor and the heroes actually do. Okay, so the carry at level 1 will be mitigating 15%, and at level 15 with 46 armor they will mitigate 31%. A fighter will start with 14 armor and mitigate 12.28%, and at level 15 with 31.5 armor they will mitigate 23.95%. Okay, and casters at level 1 with 8 armor, it is 0.0741, which is 7.41%, and at max level it is 18%. Okay, so with these numbers you actually end up getting diminishing returns past a certain point. It is this formula does allow for the fact that it is, you know, there is 100% mitigation, but it is so ludicrously high that there is no chance that you would even be able to get there. So if we look at someone with 50 armor at level 15, that will be 33.33% mitigation. So 50 armor will reduce all incoming damage by a third. 100 armor will reduce all incoming damage by half. So it's 50%. Okay, 150 armor will only go to 0.6, which is 60%. Okay, so you see from 50, doubling your armor to 100 takes you from 33% to 50%. But then adding the same amount again will only take you from 50 to 60%. Adding another 50 and going to 200 would only take the 60% to 66.67%, or 2/3, but that is still very good. So if you look at the way that you're getting diminishing returns there, say take a look at someone like Steel, who passively gets off of his ablative armor, receives over 400 ability armor at 4 stacks. 400 actually ends up being 0.8, which equals 80% mitigation. Okay, so that's a jump from 66% to 80% by doubling. Okay, so there is a point where you kind of need to think, is it really worthwhile? And the reason why you need to think about that is because the most important thing to think of when it comes to health and armor is effective health. Okay, the best way to look at armor is effective health. Now the way that you work out your effective health is the formula that's on the screen right now. Okay, so the this is the shit one. The beHP is your basic armor effective health. Okay, so that is your health times 1 plus basic armor divided by 100. Okay, so if you were to have 2000 health, because this is health times 1 plus armor divided by 100, and you add 150 armor, which, like we said before, is 60% mitigation, that would mean that you effectively have 5000 health. Now what we mean by effective health is if you had 2000 health, right, which you do, and you had no armor, but you had 2000 health, so it's impossible to actually have no armor because you have passive armor. But for argument's sake, if you had no armor and a carry was hitting for 500 damage, right, he would hit you for 500, it would take 4 shots to kill you. But with the armor mitigation at 60%, he would actually have to hit you 10 times to kill you, which means that you would effectively have 5,000 health, because 10 times 500 is 5,000, okay? So let's take, so if you look at the formula that's actually on the screen at the moment, this is one of my steel builds, okay? He ends up with 3,851 health on his sheet, okay? So, and he also has 182 armor. So because of the amount of mitigation that he has, it effectively works out to 10,859.82 health, okay? So that's massive. So the problem with effective health is where things get extremely complicated, because even more complicated than this string of numbers that have popped up on the screen. It's because it involves you actually having options in your build and building according to what you're playing against. Because if you were to have a build that had 182 ability armor and around about 4,000 health, against abilities you would effectively have 11,000 health. But if you came up against a team that was just carries and none of them used any abilities against you the entire game, okay, you do not have 11,000 effective health, because they are not hitting you with the ability that you are building against, because you're building ability armor and they're not hitting you with abilities. And the same can be said if you just build a lot of basic armor and you don't build ability armor. If a Gideon just follows you around the map and hits you with meteors, you don't have 11,000 effective health, because you haven't built around ability armor. So this is why it's the general consensus is that you should at least build around about 24 health, maybe even less, before you build in any sort of armor. And then you should actually have options on your build to maybe reduce the amount of ability armor you have, because the enemy team isn't burst caster heavy, or maybe reduce the amount of basic armor that you have because they have a few more casters than normal, you know, or they have a revenant, or you know, sort of anything along those lines. So that's where things get complicated. You can use these formulas that we looked at to work out what percentage of armor you'll be mitigating, and you can also use the effective health formula to work out how much effective health you would have. And then from there you can actually, you know, go from, okay, I have 200 armor and this much health, so that's 66% mitigation. This is my effective health. What if I reduce my armor by 30 and I add X amount of health on instead? And you can sort of work out which ends up better, but in the end you really need to take into account what you're playing against, because like I said, if you build a shit ton of basic armor and you never get hit by a basic attack, that is a complete and utter waste of armor. You could have actually put it into health, okay? Because the health is actually, it's not mitigating anything, but it's effective. Health being put on, just actual health being put on, is pretty much protecting you against basic attacks and abilities, because it's actually health, okay? Basic armor will protect you against basic attacks, but not against ability armor, okay? So if you're getting hit by one and not the other, you definitely want to build more into that type of armor. So if you're getting smashed by a carry, the only thing that's really going to help you is health and basic armor, okay? Hope that makes sense. I think we have pretty much covered everything there. So I will actually link in the description down below, I will link you to a very, very helpful Reddit post by a person called, that was pretty mean. I assumed gender by KOU9992, who explains this probably better than I actually have. Okay, there you will find a list of all of the formulas that are used, I will also write them out in the description for you as well. Like I said, if you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll try to answer as best as I can. But hopefully you have learned something. If you did kind of catch on, but you feel like you know, there's some sort of things that you aren't getting, definitely go and look at the Reddit post that I'm linking in the description. It will help you so very much. Okay, and there is probably a lot more that I didn't even mention. But like I said, hopefully someone has found this useful. I do words, okay? I speak England. Hopefully someone has found this useful. And if you did find this useful, or you enjoyed this video in any way, shape or form, please smash the like button. It lets me know that you appreciate what I do. And comment, as I said, if you have any questions whatsoever, or if I missed anything, feel free to list that in the comment section below. And if you're not already, guys, subscribe for more Paragon content. But with that said, thank you so much for watching. I love your face, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.